Today we worked with like terms and trying to understand how we can combine like terms and thinking about what we're counting when we're looking at an expression, identifying terms, and then combining like terms. This problem presents another difficulty. We need to understand how to distribute this negative to the terms inside the parentheses. When this says the opposite of 4y plus 4, so it's the opposite of 4y and the opposite of 4. You can also think of it as a negative 1 multiplied by 4y plus 4 if that helps. You have to distribute that to both of these terms. So negative 1 multiplied by 4y, or the opposite of 4y, is negative 4y. Negative 1 multiplied by 4 is negative 4, or the opposite of 4 is negative 4. So we have negative 4y plus a negative 4 plus 3y minus 6, but I'm going to go ahead and use the definition of subtraction and remember that subtracting is the same as adding the opposite. So subtracting 6 is the same as adding the opposite of 6, adding a negative 6, because that's going to allow me to associate now that I have a series of addition, and I can combine these two terms because in both cases I'm counting wholes, ones, and so I have negative 4 and negative 6, that's negative 10. And then I also have these two terms, which are like terms because in both of these terms I'm counting y to the first power in both terms. So negative 4y plus 3y is just a negative 1y, or negative y. So negative y plus negative 10 or negative y minus 10. Either of those expressions would be acceptable for the simplified version of that expression. I also want to do one of these word problems with you, but I'd like you to try to set up the expression yourself. Problem 30 says 6 more than 3 times a number is half of the number plus 12. So anytime you see a number or the number, that's an unknown, so represent it with a variable. Try to write that expression, then try to solve it by combining like terms, and then come back and see how you did, please.
Paused.
Okay, 6 more than 3 times a number. So for a number I'm going to use n, and 3 times a number will be 3 multiplied by n, or 3n. 6 more than that, so 3n plus 6, that's 6 more than 3 times some unknown number. Is equals, it's equivalent to half of the number, 1/2 n plus 12. I don't really want the variable on both sides of the equation. I have fewer n's here than I have here, so I'm going to subtract this 1/2 n from this side of the equation and subtract 1/2 n from this side of the equation. Property of equality. I can do anything I want as long as I do the same thing on both sides of the equation. 3 minus 1/2 is 2 1/2, so 2 1/2 n plus 6 is now equal to 0 plus 12, which is just 12. In order to isolate the variable and solve for n, I need to get rid of this constant term, so I use the inverse of adding 6, which is subtracting 6. But I have to do it on both sides of the equation, property of equality. 12 minus 6 is 6. 6 equals 2 1/2 n, which at this point I'm going to represent as 5/2. And because I know the next thing I need to do is get 1n, and I can achieve that by multiplying by the reciprocal of this coefficient. 2/5 multiplied by 5/2 is 1. And 1n is n. n is what I want. I multiply the left side of my equation by 2/5. I need to multiply the right side of my equation by 2/5. Again, property of equality. And so these all cancel, and I get n equals 12 over 5. So n equals 2 2/5. Let me just check and make sure that looks like what I got. Yes. Okay, thanks for watching the video. See you tomorrow.